video, and like I know briefly how to make a video now, and hopefully I can make it for the midterm.
Yes, that's good. And do you want to share anything about your plans on Monday? What did you do on Monday?
Like I watched the video of your presentation, and like I planning ideas.
So you planned idea, right?
Yeah,
And how about other people? Do you get to some stages in the midterm? Lam Zalam?
Sorry, sir, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, what did you do on Monday? Do you go to any step further in the midterm
Uh,
video?
yes, I have a look back at the question that you gave us on the Word file, and I try myself to look for the answers, look for good answer for those questions, and I I grow I grow lots of answers by that because I would like to summarize everything about the global citizen. So I think I'm have already finished about 30 or 40%.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Anyone else want to add and want to add anything? Want to talk about this? Hello? Nobody want to talk? Okay, so if you don't want to talk now, I think we should. Today, the plan is that we will talk about part 3 of speaking for 8 topics, and we talk about how to develop ideas on that. The second thing is that I want to make sure that you have the audios for unit 4 to unit 6, but we don't do it with correction. So I play the sound and you will watch again if you need to do the exercises in the textbook. Do you have any question for this? Hello? Okay.
okay.
So, yes.
No, sir. No, sir. I don't have ideas.
Okay. So I have to tell you again that now I'm going to play the audios for you so that you can check on the books to do exercises for the book at home. And after that, we discuss about how to develop ideas for 8 chapters or for 8 units. Okay. So for the listening, I do it continuously from unit 4 to unit 6 so that you can follow the listenings and do it by yourself in the files I sent you, because we don't have the file if you don't have the book. So that is why I'm going to play it now to record for you to watch again. Is it okay for that plan?
Absolutely.
I want to hear from somebody else if you want to add something, or you want to talk about this further, or we can just start it. Because anyone want to say something? Because kind of nobody want to talk to me anymore. Hello? Hello, everyone. Where are you? Hello?
It sounds like they are listening the songs. We don't talk anymore.
Um, maybe I ask somebody. Thư, are you here, Thư? Thức, sorry. Anh know Thư. Trần Thị Anh Thư, are you still in the class?
Yes, I'm here.
Why don't you talk to me for a long time? Are you angry with me?
No.
So what's wrong with us? You don't want to tell me anything?
Uh, I don't have something to talk.
You don't have anything. You don't have anything to tell me. Okay. So is it okay for the plan today that I play continuously some audios for you so that you can do the listening at home?
It's okay, sir.
Okay. And then after that, we discuss about how to develop ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have the books, open the books and do it during listening. If you do not have the book, you can download the file I sent on Zalo. You already have the file to Unit 6. So try to have a look at that and do the exercises. And now I turn on the sound and try to play the sound for you. So from Unit 4, we try to do listening 1 and 2. And for Unit 5 and 6, the same thing. Okay, I do it now. You listen and try to do the exercises in the book. Now listening 1A for the activity is on the page number 92. Okay, ready? Go.
Unit 4, Listening 1, Activity A.
Be honest. When you drop by your local coffee house, hi, how are you? Do you ever think about the farmers who grew that coffee thousands of miles away?
I need two venti mocha frappuccinos with whipped cream.
So do you hear the sound well, everyone?
Dạ thầy ơi,
Yes.
bài này như là mình nghe rồi làm rồi ấy thầy.
Bài này nghe rồi hay gì mình xuống listening to ha? Yes. So, but it's okay. I need to record it on the video so that you can do consistently or continuously in 3 units at the same time. Is it okay? So do you hear the sound well? We do it listening 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 3 units. Is it clear now?
Yes, good.
Yes, because some of you may not have the books account, so you cannot access to the media, but we need to practice listening every day. Okay, so I will do it again with listening 1 and 2 for Unit 4, 1 and 2 for Unit 5, and 1 and 2 for Unit 6. Okay, so don't worry. If you finish it, you can do something in 6 minutes and go back.
Unit 4, Listening 1, Activity A.
Be honest. When you drop by your local coffee house, hi, how are you? Do you ever think about the farmers who grew that coffee thousands of miles away?
I need two venti mocha frappuccinos with whipped cream.
When you pay the bill, $8.29. Do you ever wonder how much of this money will the coffee farmers and their families actually get?
What can I get for you?
An international network of activists wants you to start thinking about it because they say they've figured out a simple way that you can affect the global economy and transform the lives of farmers. Look for coffee with a special label marked Fair Trade. With Part 3 in our special report, here's American Radio Works correspondent Daniel Zwerdling.
Let's go right to coffee country. Let's head to the mountains of Guatemala. They grow some of the best coffee you can drink. It's late afternoon. The sun's already sinking behind a peak, and farmers are shuffling back down the slopes after a whole day picking beans. Some lead pack horses. They're mangy animals. You can count every single rib. The farmers tie the reins to trees next to the village warehouse, and they unload their burlap sacks. A lot of farmers can't afford a horse. One man's staggering down the dirt path. He's lugging more than 50 pounds of coffee on his own back. My interpreter translates.
Sometimes we do 100 pounds or more. You come here sweating, really sweating.
You don't have to be an economist to see that growing coffee here doesn't buy much of a life. Picture the farmers' homes on the hillsides. They're shacks. The floors are bare dirt. There's no running water or electricity. The outside walls are thin wooden planks, and it gets cold here up in the mountains. The world's coffee prices go up and down, depending partly on supply and demand and speculation by big investors. But these farmers are stuck in poverty. They sell their beans to local businessmen, whom they derisively call coyotes. And the coyotes pay them less than 50 cents per pound. At that price, the farmers can barely make a few $100s a year.
Entonces, porque para producir un quintal de café sale caro.
I mean, to produce coffee, it's expensive. It's a lot of work, and sometimes we can't even cover costs.
Could I ask all of you something? Do you know how much somebody like me pays for your coffee when I go to my local coffee shop in Washington, D.C.?
No lo sabemos.
No, we don't know.
So I tell them that foreign stores typically sell Guatemalan coffee for at least $9 per pound, compared to the 50 cents they get for growing it. And the farmers just stand there, looking puzzled. Then one of them pulls a calculator out of his pocket. It's so dirty and scratched you can hardly see through the screen. And the interpreter helps him convert dollars into local quetzales. The farmers gasp when they hear the price.
They're just amazed at how much a consumer pays for it, and they keep just saying 6,600 something quetzales. It's like they're repeating it over and over again. It's an enormous difference from what they actually get. It's a huge amount of money.
These farmers are the poorest and most powerless part of the global coffee trade, and it's a massive industry. The world trades more coffee than any commodity except petroleum and illegal drugs. But the farmers say they don't know what happens to their beans once they sell them to the coyote. They don't realize that he sells them to a processor, then the processor might sell them to an exporter. The exporter ships the beans to an importer in another country like the United States. The importer sells them to a roaster. The roaster sells them to a coffee shop, which sells the coffee to you. And everybody makes a healthy profit along the way, except the small farmers who grow it. Now, activists have devised a cure that they call the fair trade system. They say it can help farmers make more money than ever before and flex some power over their lives. On a recent morning, we joined one of the system's organizers, a man named Guillermo Denaux. He's heading to a meeting with some fair trade farmers to see how things are going. And that means that his four-wheel drive car is straining to climb an insane path next to a cliff way up in Guatemala's mountains.
It's the end of the world. There is no more village further away. It's impossible.
A group of European activists founded Fair Trade in the late 1980s. The program spread to the United States a few years ago. And here's how it works. First, they've signed up roughly 300 groups of coffee farmers from Indonesia to Peru. They'll only sign up small family farmers who market their coffee together in community co-ops. No corporate plantations allowed. Second, they figured out how much money a typical farmer needs to support a family of 5. Decent food, clothes, kids in school, health care. And then the system basically guarantees that the farmers can sell their coffee for enough money per pound to achieve that. How? Well, the companies that sell fair trade coffee to you at your local cafe buy it almost directly from the farmers who grow it. Denaux says the network cuts out the middlemen who traditionally siphon off farmers' profits.
Their whole life they depended on the intermediaries. So once you can become independent of those intermediaries, for them it's very important.
Still, the Fair Trade Network can't raise all the money that farmers need just by cutting out middlemen. Consumers have to help too. You pay at least 10% extra for fair trade brands.
Now we continue to listening to
Unit 4, Listening 2, Activity A.
We are going to watch 2 videos in class today related to our recent readings on how companies can market themselves as socially responsible corporations. The first, from 2008, is a report on the purpose and goals of the UN Global Compact, an international business program started by Secretary General Kofi Annan in 1999. The second is an update presented by the Executive Director of the UN Global Compact, George Kell, at the Business for Peace Foundation in 2014. Please take notes and write questions for a follow-up discussion.
In 1989, the Exxon Valdez sank off the coast of Alaska, spilling 11 million gallons or 125 Olympic swimming pools worth of crude oil into the water, polluting 1,300 miles of coastline, a disaster which incurred the world's biggest ever corporate fine of $5 billion has become a byword in the media for corporate irresponsibility. Since then, business has gone global as never before, with foreign direct investment tripling to more than $1 trillion. But as companies extend their reach, particularly into emerging economies with weaker regulations, the need for responsible business practice is greater than ever before.
Shame on the gap! Shame on the gap!
Despite increasing scrutiny from consumers and NGOs, companies are still regularly accused of human rights abuses, poor working practices, and environmental crimes. In 2000, the United Nations offered a solution to this growing problem, the UN Global Compact, which asked businesses to take direct responsibility for their actions. Participating companies follow the Global Compact's 10 principles, which broadly safeguard human rights, labour standards, the environment, and fight corruption in what could be described as a United Nations of companies.
Initially, we started off with a moral call. Increasingly, over the last couple of years, the business case for engagement has become clearer.
By acting responsibly, companies can gain the confidence of investors, who are increasingly backing businesses that successfully manage their environmental and social impact. It's said that reputation and intangible assets determine up to 70% of the company's market value.
Today, Andrew Fastow, the Chief Financial Officer of Enron, has pled guilty, has admitted his responsibility, his role in the collapse of Enron.
When Enron's irregular accounting practices were revealed in 2001, its share price plummeted from more than $90 to less than 50 cents. Enron's tattered reputation eventually bankrupted the company. On the flip side, a good reputation can increase sales. A 2007 report showed that household expenditure on ethical goods and services in the UK had almost doubled in 5 years. Businesses waking up to the fact that the commercial potential of a responsible business can be exploited.
Business leaders recognize that being proactive on these issues has a premium. It allows them to attract skilled people. They also recognize new opportunities, because if you're better connected on the social agenda, you spot market needs much better.
And attitudes do seem to be changing. A 2007 McKinsey survey found that 90% of CEOs said they were doing more now to incorporate environmental, social and political issues into core strategies than they had done 5 years ago. The Global Compact started with 38 companies in 13 countries. Today it has 4,000 members in 120 countries.
The UN has put its own reputation.
However, the UN remains undaunted in its ambition to gather more companies under the Global Compact umbrella and to see them working together to tackle issues such as climate change. Progress so far has been significant, but this is only the beginning.
Together, we can achieve a new phase of globalization, one that creates inclusive and sustainable markets, builds development, and enhances international cooperation.
So, in order to assess the success of the UN Global Compact, we need to know where businesses stand 15 years after its beginning. In the previous video, George Kell said business leaders would recognize that being proactive on social issues would be beneficial to them. Have a significant number of companies joined the movement? Kell poses 3 questions. Let's see how he answers the first one in his speech at the Oslo summit.
We are honored to be partner of the Business for Peace Foundation, to contribute, to spread the message, to build a momentum. Indeed, the State of the Union and its fragility was the reason why United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan in 1999 launched a global compact of shared values to give global markets a human face. And of course, I'm very happy that Harvard discovered this concept 10 years later. So where is the State of the Union between business and society today? I believe it is at a crossroads. On the one hand, we have seen enormous progress in the last 10, 15 years. What started as a marginal movement is now becoming strategic corporate practice. On the other hand, we see that framework conditions are not necessarily improving. We see that global warming is already becoming a reality, that old ideologies are coming back, and on a daily basis, we are reminded about corruption, human rights abuses, ecological destruction, often implicating business. The first question is, can we envision a day, hopefully not in the too distant future, where the majority of business acts responsibly and in a sustainable manner? The second question I would then explore is, what are the major barriers that hold us back in moving there? And thirdly, what does it take to get there? So let me take these 3 questions one by one. On the first question, can we envision a day where the majority of businesses is truly acting responsibly? I can say today to you with great confidence, yes, absolutely. The simple reason is that in an increasingly interdependent and transparent world, long-term financial success can only happen if it evolves together, hand in hand with environmental, social responsibility and sound ethics. I can tell you also with some pride that this movement is already a global movement. In 1999, less than 50 companies had the courage to take a stand on universal principles. Today, there are 8,000 active corporate participants organized in 100 country networks from more than 140 countries. From China to Chile, from Mexico to India, from Iceland to South Africa, the idea of corporate responsibility has taken root and is growing in many languages, in many contexts.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to Unit 5, Listening 1A.
Unit 5, Listening 1, Activity A.
Welcome to Lesson 15, Module 1 of Environmental Psychology. This week, I'll be introducing you to the field of environmental psychology, which is an area that studies the interrelationship between human behavior and environments. Environment refers to the natural environment, such as parks, natural resources, and outdoor settings, and built environments, or those structures and spaces which are constructed rather than those that occur naturally. Today, we'll be concentrating on characteristics of behavior and our connection to the space around us, focusing on gender, eye contact, and our need for privacy. We know that our need for space and our reactions to perceived invasion of our space are different for men and women. Males often object to face-to-face invasion. Sitting directly across from a male is often more offensive to them than sitting next to him. However, females often object to adjacent invasion. This has to do with competition versus affiliation goals. Males are expected to compete and women to affiliate. It's not necessary to affiliate with someone who is sitting across from you, but if someone sits next to you, it's often felt that you should engage in some affiliative behavior if you're a female. If you're a male, on the other hand, an adjacent invasion is not as important as a face-to-face or across from you invasion. What we know is that because these gender differences exist, you can also look at where people put their belongings. Belongings are often placed to avoid invasion. Females will often place their books or belongings to the side of them in a vacant seat in order to force people to have to make another kind of invasion. Males, on the other hand, will often put things across from them to indicate that they are taking up the space in front of them to prevent face-to-face invasion. In addition, we mark our territory with our belongings. For example, putting your jacket on the chair next to you, or putting your book on the table in the space that you feel belongs to you. In fact, 83% of students sit in the same seat all semester during a large lecture course. This is quite remarkable. There's nothing really about that seat specifically that makes it theirs, but we have this very territorial behavior ingrained in us. Equally important, we know that when males mark their territory, these markers are taken very seriously. If you look at desks, office space, and seating, you'll find that you behave in a very different way depending on to whom the office belongs. If you enter an office and you believe that a male is in that office, you will respect the desk and office space and seating arrangement. However, females' offices tend to be invaded and manipulated. That is, people will move things on the desk, play with objects on the desk, take up their office space, choose a different seat, move the chairs, and so on. In short, the gender of the owner affects our reaction to his or her territory. Another study that shows this reaction to how seriously we respect people's territories is called the jacket study. In this study, researchers put a clearly feminine or clearly masculine jacket on a chair when no one else was around. They then measured who would sit where and why. If it was a male jacket, people kept their distance. They sat several chairs away. However, if it was a female jacket, people often would move the jacket or turn it into lost and found. They didn't see it as a marker. We know that people engage in territorial behavior and males have larger territories than females. This begins when they are children. If you ask young children, who perhaps have just received a bike and have begun to explore the neighborhood using the sidewalks, you will find that the male children are often able to map out a much larger area of the place in which they play than females. Females typically draw perhaps their block or the houses across the street, but not much beyond that, whereas males will often draw 3 or 4 blocks, sometimes even a 6-block radius around their own home. You can also look at yourself in terms of whether or not you are territorial. Often, when you go to a restaurant and the server puts your plate in front of you, you can't help but touch it. This is why they always warn you the plate is hot, because they know your instinct is to touch the plate. The next time you eat out, try very hard not to touch the plate. It's very difficult to refrain from doing so, and now that I've made you aware, maybe you'll see just how territorial you really are. Eye contact is also an indicator of how we feel about personal space. One study of eye contact was conducted in post offices in 3 environments. Researchers looked in Parksford, a rural community, Bryn Mawr, a suburban town, and Philadelphia, a big city, and found that males and females within each community typically engage in eye contact at the same level. However, both genders were less likely to make eye contact in the city, moderately likely to do so in Bryn Mawr, and most likely to do so in Parksford. That is, In Parksford at the post office, you're expected to look at everyone, say hello even. However, in Philadelphia, you should not make very much eye contact, and only about 10% of people did. This is a way of maintaining space. In a rural area such as Parksford, you often feel that you have enough space and you aren't being threatened, so there's no need to be territorial. There is also no reason to feel like you might be invading someone else's territory. However, in Philadelphia, you can maintain a sense of privacy by not making eye contact with others. It's even considered polite, and when people do make eye contact, it's often thought to be strange, weird, or cause for concern. Another form of visual intrusion is the ability to see or be seen. This is usually seen as stressful. Restaurants or offices have been made to give a sense of privacy. However, even though they add barriers or other clear panels, this does not decrease visual intrusion or give anyone a sense of privacy. What we know about college students is that those who drop out are more likely to be students who had to live in dorms with roommates and use communal bathrooms and showers. So, if you need an argument for getting your own apartment, this could be it.
Okay, we continue with listening skill A.
Unit 5, Listening Skill, Activity A.
In addition, we mark our territory with our belongings. For example, putting your jacket on the chair next to you, or putting your book on the table in the space that you feel belongs to you. In fact, 83% of students sit in the same seat all semester during a large lecture course. This is quite remarkable. There's nothing really about that seat specifically that makes it theirs, but we have this very territorial behavior ingrained in us. Equally important, we know that when males mark their territory, these markers are taken very seriously. If you look at desks, office space, and seating, you'll find that you behave in a very different way depending on to whom the office belongs. If you enter an office and you believe that a male is in that office, you will respect the desk and office space and seating arrangement. However, females' offices tend to be invaded and manipulated. That is, people will move things on the desk, play with objects on the desk, take up their office space, choose a different seat, move the chairs, and so on. In short, the gender of the owner affects our reaction to his or her territory.
Unit 5, Listening Skill, Activity B. 1,
Students who decorate their dorm rooms tend to be happier at school. More importantly,
2,
We found teenagers who put a lot of surprising information on the internet. Actually,
3,
there's a stereotype that men like to wash their cars every weekend. In addition,
4,
what kind of car we buy might reveal only a part of our personality. That is,
5,
so it is clear that gender plays a role in territorial behavior. Moving on.
6,
eye contact, visual intrusion, and territorial behavior are all evidence of ways humans interact with their surroundings. In conclusion,
Okay, so now we move to listening 2A.
Unit 5, Listening 2, Activity A.
This is Talk of the Nation. I'm Neil Conan in Washington. The framed items on the wall of my office include my FCC third-class radio telephone operator's license from 1973 and the New York Times crossword puzzle from the day my name was used as a clue. There's a baseball on my desk, not signed or anything, just a baseball. Some toys sit on top of the speaker. a beach chair with a life preserver, a double-decker London bus, and a corkboard has family pictures. John F. Kennedy behind the wheel of a PT-109, and a postcard of Giant Stadium in New Jersey. Sam Gosling, are those few things enough to tell you anything about what kind of person I am?
Yeah, they certainly could tell us a lot. There's a lot of information, a lot of it not so obvious, but there's a lot of information in places like people's personal spaces, their offices or their living spaces.
Mm-hmm. And not just what they are, but the way they're arranged. For example, if the family pictures look out to the guest in the office or inward to the person who occupies it.
Yeah, it's really crucial to combine not only what they are, but how they've been placed. Because how they've been placed gives us good information on the psychological function that they serve. So if we have photos of, say, our family and our beautiful spouse facing us, that shows us it's for our own benefit. It's what you might call a social snack, something we can snack on to make ourselves feel better over the day. If it's turned the other way, then it's more for the benefit of others, which doesn't mean it's disingenuous. It may not be trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, but it informs the function that the photo serves.
Sam Gosling studies personality by looking at stuff. Stuff in offices, bedrooms, cars, and bathrooms. What's there and how it's arranged can provide clues about who we are and what's important to us. So we want you to call or email us and describe the room or the car you're in right now. What's on the wall or the desk, the bumper stickers, your radio presets. Our phone number is 800-989-8255. Email us, talk@npr.org. You can also join the conversation on our blog at npr.org/blog of the nation. Later on in the show, the romance and monotony involved in real archaeology. But first, Sam Gosling. He's an associate professor of psychology at the University of Texas in Austin. His new book is called Snoop, What Your Stuff Says About You. And he joins us today from the studios of member station KUT in Austin. Thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
And your book is called Snoop because that's what you propose to teach us what to do.
Yeah. Snooping around people's places, and I should say that I construe places very broadly. Not only our physical environments, but our oral environments too. Our virtual environments, like our personal home pages or our Facebook profile. So if people who want to call in want to talk more broadly about spaces, that would be fun too.
Mm-hmm. And of course, to figure out what personality type, what stuff tells you about you, you have to know what personality types are to begin with. Introvert, extrovert are two that I guess everybody knows about.
That's right. And there are a number of ways of thinking about personality. And you can think about personality traits, which is what most research has done on it. And within that domain, there's the system known as the Big Five, or the five-factor framework, which talks about these different traits. As you say, introversion, extroversion is the main one, but there are other important ones too.
And how did you get interested in this? Are you a natural-born Snoop?
Well, I think we're all natural-born Snoops. And, I mean, some of us are more curious than others, but I think we all do because it's crucial. If you think who are the people who are... What is the element of the environment that's most important to us in terms of how well we get on in terms of professional lives and personal lives? It's other people. So I think we're naturally attuned to picking up on whatever information is out there, and there's a lot of information out there in people's spaces. So I think we all do it.
And so we size people up as soon as we see them, As soon as we shake their hand, for example.
Yeah, as soon as we shake their hand. And there's the handshaking has been a part of etiquette books for years and years and years. But it was only recently that it was really subjected to a really rigorous study. And there was a study done by Bill Chaplin in 2000, which looked at exactly that. It looked at what you can learn about someone from a handshake.
And sometimes it's interesting. You can learn something about it, but you can also come to a conclusion that's easily wrong.
Right. That's the point. Yes. For example, taking the example of handshaking, if somebody grips your hand firmly and looks you in the eye and smiles as they're doing it, then we form an overall positive impression of them. We form all kinds of positive things. Yet it turns out that the handshaking firmness is only a clue to some traits. So we are going beyond the evidence. And so it's really important to know which are valid clues and which ones are misleading.
And in the clip of tape that we heard at the beginning of the program and throughout your book, you use the example of Agatha Christie's great detective, Hercule Poirot.
That's right, because it's really important. If I had one wish in the world, it would be that one clue told you something about a person. If you had a stuffed teddy on your bed, it meant something, But the world is more complicated than that. So unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, because there are many reasons why we might have, say, a stuffed animal on our bed or something like that. And so really, you can't use a codebook approach where X means Y. What you have to do is you have to build up a picture piece by piece. And sometimes you only have a very little piece and you have to hold your view very tentatively. But that will guide your search for more information.
So that postcard of Giant Stadium, well, it could tell you that I'm a Giants fan, which is true, but it could also tell you I grew up in New Jersey.
It could. Or it could tell you it might have sentimental meaning. Who is it from? Is it from somebody important? And so in order to resolve that, what we would do is we would look for other clues. So the baseball there would begin to help us resolve the meaning of the postcard itself. We might also see, well, these other items, the crossword puzzle, these other things which might modify the meaning which helps us resolve. Okay, so maybe recognition is important. We learn that you're somewhat sentimental, and that helps us clarify the meaning of each clue.
Okay, so we continue with the next one, and just two more, and then we finish.
Unit 6, Listening 1, Activity A. Report 1, Doc in a box?
In this country, when we get sick, we usually get to see a doctor or a nurse. But in most developing countries, there's a huge shortage of both. Pulitzer Prize-winning science writer Laurie Garrett was thinking about this problem and flipping through an architectural magazine when she came up with a novel idea.
There was a description of a place called Container City in London, in which shipping containers painted in primary color had been stacked in unusual ways to create apartment buildings. And I simply thought of it at that moment, and a little sort of bingo light bulb went off in my head. This might be the way to solve a lot of our global health problems by converting these abandoned shipping containers into frontline medical clinics.
A so-called doc in a box could be transported to remote villages far from healthcare centers.
Instead of having to trek enormous distances spanning a day or two just in travel to get to a health clinic, you would be able to squeeze this into your daily routine to come in and be tested for a wide array of infectious diseases and have your kids immunized as a matter of routine.
Garrett says there are empty shipping containers in almost every port in the world. Each one could be converted into a dock-in-a-box.
Ministries of health or non-governmental organizations would be operating these networks of dock-in-a-boxes, and that they would have selected paramedics from the very villages that they serve. The most obvious reservoir is midwives, who already operate as paramedics all over the world.
The idea for the dock-in-a-box is still in its early stages. A prototype clinic was developed in Haiti earlier this year. While it cost about $5,000 to put together, Garrett says that cost could be even less.
We see no reason why, if retrofitting is done on a mass scale, and if the retrofitting is done in a developing country port, such as in Durban, South Africa, these containers couldn't come in for well under $1,500 apiece, including the delivery cost.
Lori Garrett, who now works with the Council on Foreign Relations, hopes governments and aid organizations will take her idea and run with it. She believes the container clinics ultimately could make portable medicine a reality for people in countries that need it most.
Report 2. Bee sting therapy.
Of the many alternative medical therapies gaining popularity, one is getting a lot of buzz. Some folks claim honeybees and all their products are useful for everything from cancer prevention to pain treatment. It's an ancient alternative therapy that's coming back into use. Practitioners and enthusiasts for all things apiary met in the Triangle recently. Rose Hoban reports.
Frederick Keller always makes sure she's got bees with her, but it can be tricky to travel with them, especially on a plane. So when she left her home on Long Island recently to come to North Carolina, she had several hundred honeybees mailed to her here. They arrived in little wooden boxes with perforated plastic tops, each about the size of a Snickers bar. Inside each box wiggled 40 honeybees that amazingly didn't try to get away when the box was opened. Keller is a beekeeper and an acupuncturist. She combines her two trades.
You sting a person with a live honeybee in specific places on the body where people have pain or discomfort.
Keller calls her practice apipuncture, acupuncture using bee stings instead of needles. Apis is the Latin word for bee, so apitherapy becomes the word to describe medical therapies using products from the beehive.
Honey, pollen, propolis, royal jelly, beeswax, and bee venom, of course.
Keller was here for the annual meeting of the American Apitherapy Society in Durham a couple of weeks ago. She demonstrated bee venom therapy during a session for about a dozen people who practically buzzed with excitement as they waited to get stung.
There you go. There's beautiful sting there.
Keller is also the vice president of the AAS. The organization is dedicated to research and application of bee-based therapies for a variety of ailments, from cancer to digestive problems to autoimmune diseases such as multiple sclerosis. There isn't a lot of research on some of these areas. Mainstream doctors are reluctant to talk about apitherapy, but Andrew Copeland practices outside of Los Angeles and frequently uses bee venom to treat pain. He says it works most of the time, although he's unsure of how it works. He says there are several theories.
One of the mechanisms is that bee venom causes the release of cortisol, which is the body's own natural anti-inflammatory, from the adrenal gland. And that's been shown in some animal experiments. Hasn't really been verified in humans yet.
Koken says another theory holds that some compounds in bee venom might affect how the body transmits pain signals to the brain. But it's hard to know for sure. Koken's been trying for years to do formal research in the U.S., but recently had a study protocol denied by the FDA. Researchers studying the use of bee venom are mostly in Asia and in some Eastern European countries where use of bee products has a strong tradition.
Bee venom has been used as a treatment since the time of the Greeks, and for at least 2,000, 3,000 years in Chinese medicine.
Koken says there's lots of anecdotal evidence.
People find out about this by themselves. I've had patients in the last 20 years who told me that relatives of theirs, older relatives working in the garden, had accidentally got stung on their hands by a bee, and their arthritis got better. And so they would go out periodically and get stung by a bee to keep their arthritis under control.
One of the biggest boosters of apitherapy in North Carolina is Fountain Odom, who invited the Apitherapy Society to come here. He's a lawyer, a former state legislator, and beekeeper. He says the state's 10,000 beekeepers should embrace apitherapy.
We believe that there are tremendous opportunities for the beekeepers of this state to develop some of the ancient modalities for medical treatment of pain and other uses. These are some alternatives that are very, very inexpensive.
Odom started getting stung to treat the arthritis he has in his foot and knee. He said it took his family and friends a little bit of time to get used to the idea.
They might look at you askance or say, you're kind of flaky, aren't you? I mean, why would you want to be stung by a bee?
But now Odom's a true believer. He says getting stung is the only thing that helps him with his pain. He's also convinced his wife, and that's a big deal, since she's the state secretary for Health and Human Services. Carmen Hooker Odom says she's seen apitherapy work out well for her husband, but the state's probably not going to start reimbursing for apitherapy anytime soon. Rose Hoban, North Carolina Public Radio, WUNC.
Okay, the last one.
Unit 6, Listening 2, Activity A.
You're tuned to Colorado Matters from KCFR News. I'm Ryan Warner. These days, kids are far more likely to get to school in their parents' car than by biking or walking. Well, a program in Boulder is designed to change that, and it's catching on in schools across the country and in Canada. But it didn't start out with that lofty goal. No, it started when two parents were trying to get their kids to bike to school. The kids weren't wild about the idea, and so their parents created punch cards, like the kind you get at a coffee shop or sub place. And when the cards were all punched, meaning the kids had biked consistently, there was a reward. Well, the frequent biker or friker concept caught on. Tim Carlin is one of the two dads who started this. He's now Friker's executive director. And he told me how this grew from a handful of kids at Crestview Elementary School in Boulder into an international program.
The way it got started was he and I were doing punch cards for our kids, and then we saw some other kids who were riding, and we told them, oh, well, we could do a punch card for you. And then some other kids started riding, and then we had punch cards for them. And pretty soon we had 25, 30 kids every morning arriving at the bike racks, taking part in this totally impromptu punch card system.
And what did punched cards get you? What was the reward?
We had a variety of incentives, sort of ranging from things as simple as a pencil to water bottles and to other trinkets that he would bring to school in a duffel bag. And then the kids would have the opportunity, when they had 10 punches, to reach into that bag and grab whatever interested them.
Excitement of a grab bag.
Exactly.
And the program has gotten more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Suffice to say.
As we moved past 25, 30 kids, it became really complicated to keep track of punching cards and who had a punch card. And of course, we're talking about young kids, so they had a tendency to lose their punch cards. So we wrapped up that school year, that was the spring of 2004, with a punch card system. And for the fall of 2005, we came out with a barcode system. And so what we did is we barcoded every kid's bike. And when the kids rode, the bikes would be parked at the bike rack, and one of us would and then upload that data to the internet.
Now, Tim, that's a leap. I mean, that's a technological advancement.
Okay,
suffice it to say.
So me and the other guy are both from the high-tech industry.
Okay.
And so it sort of came natural to us to think of a technology solution.
As the technology got more sophisticated, did the rewards?
The rewards did get more sophisticated. So once we felt that we had a really good day-to-day tracking system, we, Rob, the guy who really started the program, decided that why don't we shoot for the moon and offer a crazy incentive? And his crazy incentive was an iPod. And so the deal was if you rode over 90% of the days to school, you could win an iPod.
And so it wasn't just one iPod.
Oh, no.
Anyone who did this could get one.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, that was upwards of 30 kids a year riding over 160 days a year to school. So it was pretty substantial commitment on the kids' part and pretty outrageous incentive.
So at Crestview, where this program began, how many kids participate, on a regular basis?
Yeah, we're seeing roughly about 100 to 120 kids participating every day in the program. And that's out of a community of about 250 kids who could get themselves to school every day. So that's pretty neat. About half the kids at the school who are getting themselves to school every day.
And Friker has grown well beyond Crestview.
That's right. We've grown into quite a few states now. We have units installed at McFarland, Wisconsin, Platteville, Wisconsin, Eugene, Oregon, Los Altos, California, and a couple systems actually up in Canada now, which we're very excited about. And I might also add that we also include walkers now as part of the program since the original days.
That is a way of getting to school that uses your own energy.
Yeah, we call it.
Is that the idea?
Yeah, the buzzword is active transportation.
Okay.
And the idea is that it's an inclusive term that includes skateboarding, bikes, walking, anything a kid uses to propel themselves to school on their own power.
You're listening to Colorado Matters. I'm Ryan Warner, and Tim Carlin is our guest. He's executive director of Friker, a frequent biker program, born in Boulder and spreading not only across the country but beyond the borders. I imagine you have to change the name if you keep encouraging walking and
That's right.
skateboarding.
So we're in the process of coming up with a new name because obviously we've grown beyond our original beginning name.
I gather that there has to be some infrastructure in place at a school to make this possible.
Yeah. As I described earlier, we started out with punch cards, then we went to barcodes. We now have a very high-tech solution, a device that is in the bike rack area that we call the Frikometer.
Okay.
And this is a solar-powered, internet-enabled RFID reader. And RFID stands for radio frequency ID. And they're very common these days in products you buy at stores like Walmart. They're actually embedded in the product. CDs have them, books have them. Basically everything you buy not only has a barcode on the back, but also has an RFID chip in it, which identifies the product through radio instead of through optical scanning.
And what that means is the kid really doesn't have to do much but park his or her bike.
That's exactly right. So using the barcode system, we had to have a volunteer there every day of the week scanning each individual bike. Now the kid simply rides by the Frikometer and it automatically records and uploads their data. That relieves the program from having to have a volunteer out there every day. And now that same parent volunteer who would have been out there doing punch card or scanning bikes, that person can be inside helping kids learn how to read or focusing their efforts on some other activity.
So who's paying for this? I mean, is it the school or, how does it work?
Well, there are a variety of ways that this program's being funded. Again, there's a federal program called Safe Routes to School. Local communities can submit grant requests to get a Friker system as part of Safe Routes to School. But in some places, a local bike store fund. In Los Altos, California, they have a community group called Greentown Los Altos. And Friker is one of the 4 programs that community group is focusing on. And so they're using fundraising dollars to buy more systems and implement it at all the elementary and middle school in town.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for sharing this story with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Tim Carlin is executive director of Boulder-based Friker, or Frequent Biker program.
This is Tim Carlin with some updates on the Bike to School program, formerly known as Friker. A few years ago, the program was officially expanded to include walkers as well as bikers. So we decided to change the name from Friker to Voltage. Why did we change the name? There were 3 main reasons. First, the word Friker is a made-up word combining frequent and biker. The proper pronunciation of Friker should rhyme with biker. However, way too many people mispronounce the name as Freaker, rhyming with the word speaker. And parents didn't like having their kids participate in a program that sounded like it was associated with the word freak. Second, Friker was associated with biking, and we didn't want walkers to feel left out and that they were participating in a program with a name that didn't include them. And finally, Voltage is a cool word that kids and parents both like. It makes them sound as if they're bolting to school with a volt of energy. So while the name of the program has changed, much has remained consistent over the years. We continue to use a solar-powered, internet-connected RFID reader to tally daily participation and automatically upload the results to a website. Each school still uses various incentives to help motivate students who are participating and to encourage other students to start every day with a walk or bike ride to school. This past year, over 37 schools were using the program to encourage kids and parents to get out of their cars and walk to school. Those schools included from Wisconsin, Texas, and Virginia. Since 2003, the kids have made over 1.2 million trips to school, saving over 3 million pounds of carbon dioxide, which you know contributes to climate change. We estimate that the kids have traveled about 1 million miles and burned 78 million calories. Wow, that's a lot of walking and biking.
Okay, sorry for a long listening that you don't need to listen. You may just focus in any time that you want. V, what do you want to say? V? V, do you want to say anything? Hello, V? Hello, V? No? Nothing, V? Okay, so now we are going to talk about pathways in different units. And we try to make sure that you know how to develop the ideas. Let's have a look at the information that I sent you on the photos from last week. Sorry, from Monday. And now we discuss about how to develop the ideas. If you have any ideas you want to add, please feel free to talk to me and your friends. So we have at least now, we have 8 topics for 8 units. And for part 3, we need to develop the ideas. And if you can have a look at the photos on Zalo group, you will see that we have the, how do we say, the ideas on a kind of mind map, a kind of network, and we have some question after that, so you can see it's clearer with the photos I sent you. So now we are going to develop. We are going to discuss some information or the techniques so that we can introduce. Okay, so can you see the screen now? So we have unit 1. We study about effects from the ability to communicate. Okay, number 2, we have something about experience some events that overlapping the 3 elements of work, education, and fun. We have number 3, we have the deception with the eyes and the mind. This is the most difficult one. Number 4 is about global citizen. This is the most easiest one because you prepare it well. Number 5, sorry, the space of interrelationship. And number 6, innovation or new ideas. And number 7, reaction to changes. And number 8, issues of energy sources. So we have these things. And to develop the ideas in in this kind of exercises, you have to speak in around 3 to 4 minutes, and you have to make sure that you use the first sentence as the topic sentence. Okay, that's the first one. So we have the same. We have some notes for you before we begin, and then when you start to speak, you can use some linking devices like first, second, moreover. For example, let me explain, etc. So we use something that people will understand. You are changing the key term, and in this type of exercises, we have to mention 4 main points with forms of sentences. For example, you can say it again. What happens to someone ability? Or you can make a question with this, or you can make it into a phrase. Make sure that people know when a listener need to know when you change the main point. So you have to use the devices because of that. And if you mention 4 main points, you don't stop in just the term you have in the network. You have to use for each main point. We can say 2 to 3 sentences with example or explanation. Let's think about this one. So we have, for the basic thing, we have the topic sentence. Is it like in reading? And then you have you introduce 4 main points. If you do not have a lot of ideas, we should introduce 4 main points at the beginning. Okay, and after you introduce 4 main points, so I have 4 main points in this speaking, or in this topic. First, second, third, 3, 4. So you just list them. Okay, and then we continue to introduce the first one. So when you introduce the first one, this is number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for each main point, we introduce the first one with the linking device to let people know that we are talking about something. This could be any knot in the network. Okay, so you can select your own idea first, or you can select the situation first. You can select the struggles link first. It's up to you, but you have to have the logics of your own. So in the network, as long as if it satisfies the understanding of or the ease of following for the listener. Okay, you don't need to speak a lot, just 2 to 3 sentences or 3 to 4 sentences. Enough. That's enough. Because if you can see over here, you have the topic sentence, you have the introduction sentence. And then for each of this, you have 3 to 4 sentences. And then you have conclusion. And then you have the finalizing sentences. Finalizing sentences. You can try to talk about what remain in your mind about the topic, your feelings about it, your conclusion. So you can say anything you have. Kind of after you finish it, even if you don't know how to say it. For example, for this case, have to adapt the loss of ability to communicate. In this case, you can also say that, okay, it is very important to notice the loss of the ability to communicate. People or me, I will be very annoyed. So that's how we say, just an example. So sometimes we just need to do it simple and logic. That's easy enough. This is for example of the finalizing. So depends on what you already have with your ideas, and we have 8 topics right here for you. So just think of that, and when you pick up the topics for the exam, you can prepare at home. And if you don't have any ideas to prepare at home, have a look at the questions. So for the question, the suggested question, for this question, you can try to answer. It gives you ideas too. But in your exam, you don't have time for that, so you can prepare before. So do you think that Vietnamese people have a lot of struggles with learning a new language? Why? So you can try to use that as example for somebody who struggle to communicate in this one. For example, like that. So you see what I mean now, right? Sorry. What did I do? Oh. Yes? Hello? Do you have any ideas now, everyone? Do you have any questions now, everyone? Hello?
Thầy ơi, bắt ngay chủ đề nào thì nói ngay chủ đề đó luôn đúng không thầy?
Yes, ngay cái nào thì nói cái đó luôn. Why don't you speak in English with me, Trinh? So this is to prepare for the final exam in advance. Okay, in advance. Sometimes we need to think about that and prepare. So I need you to practice in group now. After I guide you with that. So I will divide your class into 4 or 9 groups or 8 groups maybe. Let me see if we have how many.
Can we discuss our criteria of your attendance on?
Criteria of what? Can you say that again? Criteria.
Okay. I see your questions on in some topic in some these topics.
Yes, yes.
At least 3 questions.
Yes. Usually you will be asked 3 questions after the final exam. So when you finish presenting, the teacher will ask you these questions. Understand that?
Yes, sorry, but I would like to confirm the information that we will take this final exam in individuals or
Individual.
Yeah.
Yes, and then you talk with the teacher, and that is the plan now, and I don't know for the future. If we can go back to school after the pandemic, things can be changed. But now you have to practice as before. So do you have any further question before we divide the class into different groups? I want you to have different groups because it's easier to split the group, to break the group out, and then you can work with new friends. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So now, do you have any question? If not, I will send you this file. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. You can, yeah, please send us this file.
For this part, reparation for group presentation next week on Monday. It's group, okay, 10 minutes maximums. So no, 7 minutes max for one member in one group will represent by random picking to present. We represent the group by random picking to represent the speech about one of the topic on Monday. So you prepare for one person to speak. The rest will record videos later. So after Monday, after my correction and feedback on Monday, you can do your own videos with your preparation to practice. Okay, and this is for next week. Okay, so I save this now and I try to send it to you. This is speaking topics, so I need to save it somewhere so that I can have it easier. Save as listening speaking C2 C12 221 maybe. Part 3 speaking in group for Monday presentation in okay, so now I split you into 8 groups randomly. Number 1, unit 1 to unit 8, and later you will exchange. Okay,
Yes.
Trinh, you want to say something?
Yes,
No?
I got it. I got it.
Okay. So now we need to get the file part 3, and now I split you into group, and you get yourself into the group to practice breakout room, and we have 8 group. And I delete this one, remove on this room, and if somebody are not in the class, they are in group 9. Okay, and if they are on group 9, they will do exercise. They will do the unit number 7. just make sure that you can get that. So automatically we need to have the room 8. We create. Okay, and for listening, you do it at home and send me the answer as we did for the other time. So on participant open. Okay, great. Chúng ta có 8 nhóm 1 viết unit 7. trình bày. Và quay video sau xem hết thì chúng ta tự rút kinh nghiệm thì cả 8 bài rồi nha. Ok. Sorry. Nhi, why are you here Nhi?
Thầy ơi, hồi nãy em ở trong cái group xong cái em bật cái mic lên hoài nó không được, nó bị liệt cái bàn phím rồi xong nó tự kích em ra luôn rồi. Em mới vô lại.
Rồi vô được qua bên kia, vô được nhóm.
Em nãy em định bật mic lên em nói chuyện với mấy bạn mà em không biết em chưa biết nhóm nào luôn, cái nó bị kích em ra luôn rồi.
Vậy hả? Vậy thì để lát thầy xem lại coi.
Dạ thầy coi giùm em đang định hỏi.
Em là Nhi hả? Nhi với Bình hả? Để thầy coi bây giờ mấy đứa đang ở đâu mới được. Dịp sao? Bình với Nhi thì đang trong meeting rồi mà. Ok.
Dạ, nhưng mà ý là em đang ở trong cái nhóm này nó văng ra đó thầy.
Vậy hả?
Dạ.
Bây giờ làm sao được? Nhi C16. À em là 17 mà đúng không? 17 là nhóm mấy nhỉ?
Em là Tăng Yến Nhi đó nha thầy.
Tại vì lớp mình có 2 Nhi lận. Thầy coi tiếp. Coi tiếp. Em chưa thấy em ở đâu luôn. Nhóm 4. À em đang ở nhóm 4, thầy kêu em vô lại nha.
Dạ.
Rồi ask to join lại rồi đó. Rồi vào đi.